Guys, Mr. Bowman here. This is our third and final video, just recapping the answers to the Westlake Boys Year 9 mid-year maths exam. Just to recap, we've already gone through the number section. That's the blue ones. We've then shifted on to the probability section. They're the previous two videos, so if you missed those, make sure you go back and check them out. And we're now going to look at the third and final section, that algebra section. And I just want to emphasize this section was the hardest section by far. So if you didn't get a favorable outcome, like maybe your result isn't as good as you hoped, don't be too upset. We're going to have the whole year, we're going to have so much more time to practice our algebra, and hopefully we'll do really well in that end of year exam as well. So we're going to start off with these questions. So for part one, key thing is you got to fully simplify your answers when you're looking at algebra. And you always must show your working. So if you don't simplify or don't show your working, the marker or your teacher may not be able to give you the full marks. And I've told them not to, because it is really important when we're doing our algebra. So for question one, we're going to be using our substitution skills to evaluate each of the following answers. So we've got A plus B plus C. We know that A is equal to 3, B is 2, C is 6, and D is -1. So that there is going to be 3, which is A, plus 2, which is B, and then we're going to go plus 6, which is C. We add all of those together, we get 11. If you got that answer correct, you were given an achieved mark. We're now going to do the same for A, B, C. So we're going to go 3, which is A, times 2, which is B. Don't forget, when there's no plussing or minusing or the letters are next to each other, we are multiplying. And the final one, C, we're going to go times C here. And we multiply those together. We're going to have 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 6 gets us to 36. Again, another achieved mark if you got that one correct. Now, this one here is getting a bit harder. We've got BC, so that's B times C. So that's going to be 2 times 6. So 2 times 6 divided by A, which is 3. Let's just do our bed mass. So don't forget, we've got the invisible brackets on the top. So we're going to do that first. 12 divided by 3, that gets us to 4. And again, a nice achieved mark for getting that. So we've got 3 achieved marks pretty quick if you had a good grasp of your substitution skills. So we're now going to look at BD squared. So B is going to be 2. So we've got that up 2 times -1, 2 times -1 squared. We do our bed mass skills first. So 2 times -1 is -2 squared. Don't forget, that is -2 times -2. A negative times a negative is going to become a positive. So that there, for if you got that right, that was a lot more challenging. You were given a really good merit mark. So well done if you got that. So that ends the substitution questions. We're now going to move down to the simplifying questions. So 3x plus 9x. The key thing is that plus sign. We're looking at, we've got 3 x's, we've got another 9. How many x's do we have in total? 3 plus 9 gets us to 12. We have 12 lots of that x that we're talking about. We're now looking at 10y minus 5. Same thing, we've got some y's. 10 minus 5 is 5, and we're dealing with y, so that's going to be 5y. We're now moving on, so we've got 5a and 4a. That there combines to get 9a. We've got 2b and 6b. That there gets us to 8b. So well done if you got that. That was a lot trickier. Maybe in hindsight a bit harsh to be an achieved question, but well done if you got that. That was awesome. We're now moving on. We've got 3ab plus 8ab, and we've got a minus 2b, but the letters are different, so we can't add them together yet. So we've got 11 of those ab's that we're talking about, and we're going to go minus 2b. We can't do anything with that 2b because there's no other b's anywhere. We've got an ab, but not a b. If you got that, you were given that merit mark here. Don't forget those earlier ones, they are all worth achieved. Hopefully you got some of those as well. Okay, so we're now moving on to question 9. We've got multiplication. And when we're multiplying, we always start off with the numbers. 5 times 10 gets us to 50. And then we put the letters on after that. We've got S and a T. So we're going to write S and a T over here as well. If you got that, you got achieved, so well done. Certainly a harder multiplication question coming up next. But the same approach applies. We start off with the numbers. 2 times 5 is 10. We then look at the letters. I always deal with them alphabetically. So because we're dealing with R's and S's, I'm going to look at the R's first. I've got one R over here and another R over here. So that is two R's, so R squared. And I've got an S over here and two S's over here. That means I've got three in total. That's going to be S cubed. If you got that, that was a pretty tricky question. You got a well-earned merit mark for that one as well. So we're now on to some division. And like multiplication, we start off with the numbers. So we've got 18 divided by 6 is 3. And then we're going to put the letter next to it as well. So 3p, that was worth achieved if you got that. Question 12 was a bit similar, but notice the bottom number, 12, was a lot bigger than the 3. So what that means is 12 divided by 3 is going to be 4. That means we've got to keep the 4 on the bottom because that bottom number was a lot bigger. And the x we haven't done anything with stays on the top. That's x divided by 4. Again, well done if you got that one there. And the last question, this was a merit question. My tip is convert that to a fraction. So we've got 5x squared y cubed divided by 30x cubed y squared. And when it looks like a fraction, it's just a bit easier to deal with. So we'll start off with drawing our line, and we're just going to put stuff either on the top or the bottom to then be able to complete our answer. So we'll start off with the negative sign. So we're just going to leave the negative sign on the top. We then look at the numbers. Well, 30 divided by 5 is 6. The bigger number's on the bottom, so we need to give that 6 to the bottom. We then look at the x's. We've got 2 x's on the top, 3 on the bottom. So the bottom has more x's, and they've got 1 extra. So we're going to give the x to the bottom team. And then we're going to finish up by looking at the y's. We've got y squared down the bottom, y cubed on the top. The top has more y's. So we're going to put a y on the top there, just like that. If you got that, you got a merit. If you put a 1 in front of the y, that's all good. You would have got 4 marks as well, but just I personally don't do that. But if you've got that, that's no dramas whatsoever. So there was worth a merit. We're now moving on to questions 14 to 16, and this relates to expanding. And hopefully your teacher taught you this kind of rainbow approach. 5 times x is 5x. 5 times 2 makes 10. So we're going to go plus 10. And you got achieved if you got that. Same for the next one. 4 times 2 is 8. A times a is a squared. We then do the rest. Minus sign. 4 times 3 is 12. And then an a. Like that. And this merit question was actually surprisingly tricky. We got 6 times 3t is 18t. We've then got 6 times s, so that's going to be plus 6s. We've then got 2 times 5s, 10s, and then 2 times 2t is 4t. If you got to this point here, your teacher would have given you an achieved mark only, and that's because you've got some stuff you can put together. So that 18t and the 40, that's going to be 22t, and then we've got 6s and 10s, that's going to be 16s. If you got to that last step, that's how you're able to get your merit mark. Okay, so we're now moving on to factorizing. Factorizing was a really tricky skill that we learnt. Let's jump into it. So we've got factorizing means we need to add back those brackets. So we did expanding. We got rid of the brackets before. We now want to add them back. So we're trying to go the opposites. So let's have a think. 6 and 30. What's the highest common factor they have? And hopefully you've spotted 6 is the highest number they have. And then we've got to think, well, that 30 is actually 5 times 6, isn't it? So this 6 I've taken out, and I've also taken out this 6. So that means we've got an x left over. So we'll put the x here. There's the minus sign, and then we've got a 5 left over here. So our factorized version would be 6x minus 5. You can check your answer, because that times that is 6x, that times that is 30, and that matches the question that we had before we scribbled everything out, that is. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. We're now moving on to the next bit. This one's a bit trickier. We've got 8x squared plus 4x. We've got to think, what do they have in common? And 8 is actually 4 times 2. And we can see they both got an x as well. So we know they've got a 4 in common. So let's cross out the 4 because I've taken that out. And I know they've got an x in common. So take that out. And we'll take out the square there. So that means it's 2x plus 1. So really tricky question coming up. And the reason it makes tricky, look at those negative signs. The negative signs always make things a little more difficult. But let's jump in, see what they got in common. So they both got a negative sign in common. So I'm going to take that out first. So he's gone and he's gone. We then look at the numbers. What do they have in common? So that 16 is 4 times 4. That 20 is 4 times 5. I can see they've got a 4 in common. We then have a look at the letters. We've got 2 A's over here, 1 A here. So I can see they've got an A in common. We'll have a look at the B's. We've got 5 B's here and 1 B here. So we'll just take out 1 B. We've got a C here, but no C here. So we're going to leave that C. Can't do anything with that. And the same with the D there. We can't do anything with that either. So we then kind of cross out what we've looked at. So we've taken out the negative sign. We've taken out those 4s. And I've taken out one of the A's. So I'm going to cross that and leave another one. And I've taken out 1B. I'll leave 4 over there. I've taken out this A. I've taken out this B here. So we think what's left over? We've got a 4, an A, 4 B's, and a C. So that there is going to be 4A, B to the power of 4, and C. So see what I mean? It is quite messy. We then have a look. What's left over here? We've got a 5 and a D next. So we're going to go plus 5D. And don't forget your close bracket there. If you got all of that, it was a big, messy question. You got yourself a merit mark. For doing that. So well done on that. So we're now going to move on to some wordy questions. And now these are the dreaded ones of algebra, because wordy questions are just the worst. But let's get into them. Let's see if we can write an expression for that. So form an expression which represents the following. So an unknown number, E, is divided by 2. So just hypothetically, let's say that number was 6. So what you would have done is you would have done 6 divided by 2. That would have been the maths that came out of it. But the only issue is we don't know what that 6 is. So cross out the 6. We're going to put an A there instead. So our answer would have been A divided by 2. So it follows our normal maths, but we're putting in letters instead of regular numbers this time around. So S is tripled. So if a regular number, let's say 2, was tripled, you would have gone 2 times 3. So this time around, we're going to go 3 times S. So S is going to be tripled, and then 2 is subtracted, take away 2. You would have got your mark for that, but hopefully you would have got rid of that minus sign, so 3S minus 2. And you would have got an achieved mark for either of those ones there. We're now getting to a more annoying wordy question. So Mr. Hahn has 3 chocolates for each student in his class. So we'll underline that. He also needs 7 chocolates for himself. Not sure why he needs 7 chocolates for himself. Maybe he ate them all, I don't know. But he needs them all. If N represents the number of students in his class, how many chocolates does Mr. Hahn need? So let's say there were 10 students in his class. Mr. Hahn would need 10 times 3. So that's 3 chocolates each, adding on the 7. So that would have been our regular maths. We're going to take away the 10, because we don't know how many students there are. We're going to put in the N, the algebra there instead. So it's N times 3 plus 7, and hopefully you would have simplified that a bit more to 3N plus 7. So we would have got that minus, or that time sign taken away. Either of those, you would have got yourself a merit mark from your teacher. Well done on that one there. So we've got the lucky coin. I've forgotten about this question. So the lucky 50-cent coin, if each side is x plus 1, form an expression for the length of the lucky coin's perimeter. So just to recap, the perimeter is always the outside of a shape. We'll learn a bit more about that when we get to measurement, but it's always the outside of that shape. And we know each of these is x plus 1. So we need to, firstly, we need to count how many there are. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So an Australian coin has 12 sides, and each side is x plus 1. So what we're going to do is we're going to go 12 times x plus 1. That there would be your expression. If you expanded that, maybe you did 12x plus 12, you'd also get your marks for that as well. No dramas whatsoever. Both answers, no matter which one you did, you would have got yourself a merit mark for that as well. So well done. Pretty tricky question. Well done if you did get that. Those brackets were critical though. If you wrote 12x plus 1, so 12x plus 1, definitely not the case, unfortunately. Okay, so we're now moving on to solving, and solving is probably, I think, the hardest skill we've learned this year. Really, really, really difficult. Let's get into them. But the key thing is you must show you're working to be awarded marks. So, for example, this question here, if you just wrote x equals 4, you got the right answer, but your teacher probably didn't give you any marks. What we are looking for is, oh gosh, I've written some z's. Let's get rid of those. There we go. So we're trying to get the x by itself, which means we need to get rid of this times 3. Instead of times 3 is divide by 3. So hopefully you've done divide by 3. So that times 3 and divide by 3 cancel each other out. And then divide by 3 on the other side, x equals 4. So it was these divide by 3s. We wanted to see divide by 3 somewhere for you to get your marks. And if you got 4 as your answer, you would have got achieved. Your teacher may have taken a bit of sympathy on you for this question because it was so easy, but hopefully you're going to start adding in those divide by 3s. So we're now moving down to question 25. So we've got x, that's the thing we want by itself, and we've got a minus 9. How to get rid of a minus 9? Well, the opposite of plus 9. So we're going to go plus 9, the minus 9, and the plus 9 cancel, and we're going to plus 9 on the other side here. So x will be equal to 3. Well done if you got that. And again, those teachers were really looking for those plus 9s in your working, just to show you understand algebra as well. Okay, so 26, we've got the x, we've got a minus 2 and a times 3. We always get rid of the pluses and the minuses first. So we're going to go plus 2 plus 2. So the 2's cancel each other out, which means 3x will be equal to 30. We're then going to go divided by 3, because that'll cancel out the times 3 we had, which means x is equal to 10. So well done if you got that. And again, your teachers were really looking for the plus 2s and the divide by 3s somewhere in your working. So we're on to 27. So 27, first thing is that plus 3. We normally like to move that first, but it's locked away in those pesky brackets, which means we can't get to it until we've unlocked the brackets. And we're going to unlock by getting rid of this times 4. And to do that, we're going to do a divide by 4. So cancel, cancel. Divide by 4 on the other side as well. So x plus 3 equals 8. We've now unlocked the bracket. Let's get rid of the plus 3 by doing minus 3. So they cancel minus 3 as well, which means x is equal to 5. So well done if you got that. Certainly a trickier question. Question 28. Don't forget invisible brackets on the top. So we're going to go times 5 times 5. The divide by 5 and the times 5 cancel. So x plus 6 equals 20. We're going to do minus 6 minus 6. The 6's cancel over there. X equals 14. And again, well done if you got achieved. We're moving on. Question 28. Now this one's really, really tricky because we can see there's x's on the left-hand side and the right-hand side of that equal sign. So we need to simplify. And the best way to do that is by getting rid of the smallest amount of x's. So let's go take away x. So that means the x and the take away x cancel each other out. And we're going to do take away x on this side as well. So that's going to be 3 equals 2x minus 7. We're then going to do plus 7 plus 7. So 10 equals 2x. Divide by 2, divide by 2. 5 equals x. You could also do x equals 5. I know a lot of us don't like it when they're that way around. But it's perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with that. You'll get full marks. So if you're able to do all of that, you got a merit mark. And again, your teachers were really looking for the minus x's, the plus 7s, and the divide by 2s to make sure you'll get marks. Okay, so we're moving on down. We're up to question 30. We're racing through this algebra section. So we've got 2x minus 5. So we're going to expand the brackets. 3 times 2x. That's going to be equal to 6x. and then we got 3 times 5, that there is minus 15, that there is equal to x. And again, like the other questions, we've got x's on both sides. So let's simplify that. We'll take away the smallest ones, minus x. So 6x minus, 5x, isn't it? 5x minus 15 equals 0. We're then going to go plus 15 plus 15. 5x equals 15. Divide by 5. X is equal to 3. So well done. If you got that, it was merit. Don't forget, your teachers were looking for the minus x's, the plus 15s, and the minus 5s, or the divide by 5s to get full marks. Gosh, we're up to the dreaded algebra, or the E question, and it was really annoying because if you have a look at the denominator, it's not divide by a number, it's divide by x minus 4. So we'll quickly rattle through this. So we need to get rid of the divide by x minus 4, so we're going to go times x minus 4, because that's the opposite. Also need to do the same on the other side too. So that and that cancel each other out. 5x minus 24 equals 3x minus 4. We then expand. So that's going to be 3x minus 12 equals 5x minus 24. We've still got x's on both sides like the previous questions. We simplify by getting rid of the smallest ones, minus 3x, and that's good because these cancel each other out. So we're going to have 2x minus 24 equals negative 12, plus 24 plus 24, 2x equals 12, divide by 2, x equals 6. So well done if you got x equals 6. If you were able to get all the way through, you are going to be awarded an excellence mark. But if you made one mistake, because I get it, there's a lot of work here, your teacher would have given you a merit mark. And if you had some kind of evidence of simplifying, either through expanding or that minus 3x, something like that, if you showed me some kind of algebra simplifying, your teacher would have been really nice and given you an achieve mark as well. Okay, so that was the first of the excellence questions. Really tricky question. Hopefully you got it. If not, ask your teacher, ask your mates. Make sure you're looking for help with questions like that. So we're now on to the final couple questions. These are the wordy questions. They're really irritating, really annoying, but they're good ones to get through. So for questions 32 to 35, we need to form an equation. So that there is key. If you didn't form the equation, I told your teachers not to give you any marks. So you must form your equations and then solve after that. So question 32, the perimeter of a square. So I'll probably start drawing my square is by adding the 4 lengths of the sides together. So let's say each side is maybe x long. X. If we add them all up, that's going to be 4x. So if the perimeter is 30 centimeters long, form an equation and use algebra to determine the side of the square. So 4x is the perimeter, and we know that is equal to 30. And you can see we've got something on the left-hand side and the right-hand side. That means we've formed our equation. We can go ahead and solve it. To get the x by itself, we get rid of this 4. So we're going to go divide by 4. They cancel. Divide by 4. X is equal to 7.5. If you were able to form your equation and get to 7.5, I'm writing centimeters, but you didn't need to write centimeters. You would have got an achieved mark. So well done on that. We're now shifting over to 33. Oh, 33, sorry. Geez, so many questions. Okay, so 2 consecutive odd numbers. So this one's a bit tricky. Odd numbers. So if the first number is x, the next odd number is going to be x plus 2. And I'll just explain what I mean by that. So if 3 is the first odd number, the next one is going to be 5. And that's because we add 2. The one after that would have been 7 because we're adding 2. The one after that would have been 9, again, because we're adding 2. So adding 2 means we're always going to be plussing 2. We know they sum to 48. So I'm just going to get rid of that working down the bottom. So hopefully you can see where that came from. And again, we've got some stuff on the left, stuff on the right. We've formed our equation. We then simplify. So we've got 2x's and the plus 2. So we've got 2x plus 2. That there is equal to 48. We're going to go minus 2 minus 2. So 2x equals 46. Divide by 2. X is equal to 23. So well done if you got that. If you got that, that's what your achieved mark was. But just a reminder, we were dealing with two numbers, so we need to state what the two numbers were. So the first number would have been 23. The second number would have been 23 plus 2, which is 25. So those two numbers, if you stated those numbers, that's how you got your merit mark at the end. So well done if you got that one there. 34, Mr. Park is thinking of a number. So we're going to call that number x. After dividing the number by 2, okay, so x divided by 2, then adding 10, okay, so we're going to add 10. The result is 24, so that there is equal to 24. Form an equation and use algebra to determine the number. So as we were reading the question, we actually formed the equation. We're now going to go ahead and solve it. So we're going to start off with the addition. We can cancel that out by subtraction. So x over 2 equals 14. We can get rid of that division by going times 2 times 2. So x is equal to 28. Well done if you got the merit mark overall. If you got the equation initially right, but maybe you solved it wrong, your teacher was going to give you an achieved mark for that as well. And we're now down to our final question. Notice this is our second excellence question for the part. Let's dive into it. So we've got two basketball teams, Team A and Team B. Team A's score can be represented by adding 2 to an unknown number. So let's go x plus 2. So we're going to call this Team A. And then doubling it. So put a bracket around that. Team B's score can be represented by multiplying the same number by 3. So, well, that's going to be 3 times x then, isn't it? If the game ended in a draw, form an equation and use algebra to solve it. You must state the final score of your game. So the draw tells us that these two scores are the exact same. They're equal to each other. So we're going to go 2x plus 2. That's Team A. They have the same score as Team B, which is 3x. So we put them together. We've made an equation. If you got your equation correct, you got an achieved mark here. We're then going to go ahead and solve our equation. So let's expand the bracket. So it's going to be 2x plus 4 equals 3x. We're going to go minus 2x to cancel, minus 2x. 4 equals x. So awesome. If you got to this part here, you got a merit. And for the excellence, you had to state the score of the game. So Team A, so they were 2x plus 2. So we're going to put the 4 in. So that's going to be 4 plus 2, which is equal to 2 times 6, which is equal to 12. And Team B, well, they were 3 times x, 3x, 3 times 4, which is also 12. And that makes sense. That's what we want. The same score means it's a draw. So to wrap up our answer score, it was 12 to 12. You might have written like 12 all or something like that as well, and you would have got marks for that. If you're able to give that to me, you got yourself an excellence overall. So long algebra section. So we did it in orange. Hopefully you found it useful. Don't forget, make sure you're asking your teacher for help. Make sure if you've got any questions wrong, make sure you jot them down and do that. And going over to our marking schedule, grade boundaries. So to pass, it was very challenging, but you needed 10 achieved marks to pass. If you wanted to push that over to merit, you needed 6 merits. And as always, if you wanted to switch that merits and excellence, you needed to get 1 E on top of all of those as well. So guys, over the last couple of videos, we went through the algebra section, we've gone through the green probability stuff, and we initially started off with the blue number stuff. That wraps up the model answers or my solutions for the mid-year exams. Hopefully you found going over the exams like this very useful. If you got any feedback or ideas on how I can do better next time, just give me a shout out in the comments below. That's all good. So thank you so much for watching, guys. Best of luck for the rest of your Year 9 and your studies.